If you are asking me to put a price on a traditional service such as a sweat, it's a way of helping someone in the traditional way, and I would ask you for nothing. It has always been this way with a true traditional leader, because it is not the way of a traditional person to ask for money or payment. My elders have always said it is up to the person who is asking how much or what the person is thinking. How much is what I've done for you worth? My elders have been paid with material, blankets, scarves, buckskin, shirts, money, tobacco, and gas to travel where they are needed. In other words, how much did the service mean to you and your people or your family? For someone to help you in this way. Now, some people will ask you for so much money, and most of them are not looking at this as a traditional person of the past, but would have looked at it, and money is their guide. In my opinion, this is a sad day. So I sat with every elder and asked them the same questions. This is the Flathead's definition. Traditional services that are provided by Indian people that apply directly and specifically to each kind of need. Craft, sweat, language, teaching, mentoring, singing, dancing, etc. Parenting, family of origin, healthcare, professional, medical. Each community and or area have their own people who can provide and assist with their own people. If needed, is referred through a court, people can seek services in other Indian countries. This person said for the sweats, a place of prayer personal to each individual, where Indian people can talk one-on-one with the grandfather, or what you call him, to pray for healing, sickness, and other types of help of all kinds. Note, always refer to an elder for more specific information with sweats. This place is very confidential. To outsiders, be discreet when speaking or sharing about sweats. Very personal. From the Coeur d'Alene tribal member, says, I do not talk about sweats. I talked about sweats one time. A doctor came, he went to the sweat, and now he charges $1,000 a sweat. So he, for one, has made me swear not to swear his information or give it to anyone. And he doesn't want anybody coming to his sweat that is not a client, because he's already been burned a couple of times, and he won't take anybody in there that isn't asking for healing harm. But when you're giving traditional services for your department, it has to be specific to your people. And if you're not from that tribe, then you need to find out who it is that you're serving. And in finding out who you're serving, the only way to make it safe is to always make sure that it's an elder that gives a description. If you give the description, someone can have a problem with you and therefore throw your traditional services out the window. But they can't throw an elder out the window. I have another paper. I can't find it. So when we're talking about taking them to the board, we're talking about getting underneath the reason for their continually, or for their not being able to find the place that they're lost. Our job as vocational rehab is to remove the dis from disability. If you look up the word dis and find out what its definition is, that will give you enough explanation of what our job is. Our people that come into our offices have already been told they can't do this, or they can't do that, or their abilities are not up to par, or there's some reason they will never be able to work again, or for some reason they cannot do what they want to do. Our job are dis removers. We're to take that dis out of disability, and I made a sign up where I crossed out the dis, because we're looking for abilities. When I go to the school and I go in to listen to an IEP for a young person, 9 times out of 10, I get to hear all the things that are wrong with the student. And when they get done and they ask me, Wilma, would you like to say something? And I just tell them, okay, we've heard about all the things that they can't do. What can they do? And for a young man, just not too recently, he has a traumatic brain injury, and the teachers did not have a diagnosis for that because IEPs, the schools have gotten, so they got a counselor in the school so they don't have to get a diagnosis. They're using that counselor to diagnose that client. That is not a diagnosis. So it's my job to get a diagnosis for that client, and he can't remember, they'll send him to the next class, and he doesn't ever get to the next class. So I asked him, have you ever given him a piece of paper and said, here, go give this to Mr. Biley? Now he knows who Mr. Biley is, and he knows where Mr. Biley's classroom is. So you have just given him something in his hand that he cannot ignore. If that's not there, somebody gets his attention and he's off somewhere else. But if he's got that little piece of paper in his hand, that traumatic brain injury, which has limited abilities, is going to keep looking at that piece of paper that says Mr. Biley. So he's going to, they said, oh, we never thought of that. So we don't just think for ourselves, we think for our clients. And we have to be able to understand what a traumatic brain injury is and what the limitations and the capabilities of a traumatic brain injury. When you're dealing with the traumatic brain injury, 9 times out of 10, those parents are going to have PTSD. Because now this father who was looking at an NFL player no longer has an NFL player. Now he has a young boy who can't even remember to get up on time, to get to his classes, remember when it's time to come home, remember how to do his studies. The father is in depression because I lost my NFL player. The mother is in super protection because somebody's already hurt her baby and no one else is going to hurt him again. So my ability as a vocational rehab counselor is to come into the IEP and I tell the school, I'm not here for you. And sometimes I'll tell the parents, I'm not here for you. I'm here for him. And I may have to deal with that father who can only see the NFL player and can't deal with his own issues because he can't see that young man who could at one time run a mile in however many seconds. Now he can't even remember where he put his shoes. So I may have to take the parents to the board, but that client is going to need more than the other client that was just in here. My job is to find out what his abilities are. When I can find out what his abilities are, then I have removed the disc of disabilities. And I have put him on a path where he wants to go. Sometimes they shoot a little bit low. If I can, I'll lift their views up a little bit. If I can't, I'll go with him where he wants to go. Right now, he wants to go in and do maintenance. I'm looking at him like, you can play, what's the name of that game? With the little man with the hat on. Yeah, Super Mario. Jesus. You could play Super Mario and beat everybody else, but all you want to do is a maintenance person. Now, it's not my business to push my stuff on him, but my business is to show him his abilities. You can play Super Mario and beat all your cousins, but you want to be a maintenance worker. Okay, let's be a maintenance worker, but while we're being a maintenance worker, what if we try this or this or this? And then I turn around to the father and I say, when is the last time you talked to your Creator? And he looks at me with a shock on his face. Wow, it's been a long time. Well, don't you think it's about time that you talk to your Creator? Now, I'm an ordained minister, and I could tell him, you could come to my church. But that's not my job. Where do you go to talk to the Creator? Where do you go to talk to the Creator? Wherever I'm at. He could have said to the mountains. He could have said to the sweat. He could have said, in my back room, in my work room, in wherever. If he said, when I go to this, the last time I went was when I went to a sweat, which was 10, 15 years ago. Well, do you know anybody that does sweats? If you don't, I have a list. I can give them to you. And I will read off some names to them and I'll say, how can I set you up with a sweat? I'll contact them, or you can contact them. If you don't contact them within 2 weeks, I'll contact them. See, I don't just give it to him and then leave it there. I follow him, because if I'm going to help the father, who else am I helping? The client, the whole family. And if you're going to help this person here, 9 times out of 10, you're going to help someone that is too scared to even think traumatic brain injury could have a chance. Because right now, I have 5 traumatic brain injuries. I heard what you did with Frank. Can you do that for me? Well, let's find out. Come into the office, let's sit down, let's talk. But when we're dealing with somebody who we continue to see over and over again, to bring it back to that, find out why they're in your office again. Ask them if they know about traditional service, because 9 times out of 10, traditional services doesn't always come up the first thing when we do clients. Traditional services laid over there on the side just in case someone should mention that. But that traditional services needs close enough for us to see it, to ask that person, when is the last time you talked to your Creator? Because you have something, and you're here for a reason. You were not created by mistake. So do you know what you're supposed to be doing? No, I have no clue. Well, how about if people find something that can help us find out? What are you good at? As vocational rehab clients, counselors, we have the ability to go in and not just release a client, but release a family, but release a community, but release a tribe, but we can go as far as we want to go as counselors, or we can just stop with those 26s. Got them out, got them in their 90 days. Yay, we're done with our 90 days. Or we can make it so that you help this one, that will 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 help with, and you have just help that one person, but you help everybody that they're involved with. So if you don't have traditional services and you don't have it in a documented list in your program, then you need to get one. Because you need to know what those clients need, not what you need, what the clients need. And the clients need to know who they are, what they're here for, and what they need to do to get where they're supposed